Hey guys, welcome back to Fix It Friday. So this week I've got something very rare and very special for us to take a look at. And so what I have here is the PC Engine LT. So this is a kind of portable version of the PC Engine that was released in Japan. And it basically takes the PC Engine, otherwise known as the Turbografx 16 in North America, and it builds in this really nice large screen. It still requires power, so you've got to plug it into the wall, so it's not actually portable, but you can actually hold it in your hands and play games. And it kind of just looks like, if the GBA SP was designed in, the mid to late 80s. It just has such a cool looking aesthetic to it. Very few of these were made. They are extremely sought after by collectors. I mean, they go upwards of 3,000 or more these days. And this one is complete in box. So it has all of the, installation materials, all the packing, everything. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. But, like many NEC products, this thing unfortunately does not work. So it's extremely common for LTs to have problems with their capacitors and also with the voltage regulators. And they're also very difficult to fix. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take this one apart. I'll show you how to do that. And we're going to do a full capacitor replacement on this unit. And I'll show you that it's more complicated than normal systems because it's not just the caps that need to be removed. You have to kind of remove a whole bunch of components just to get access to the caps. And then we'll see how things go from there. This unit might need more than that because, like I said, sometimes the voltage regulators fail on them. But yeah, we'll find out. All right, let's get started. Okay, so to take this thing apart, you've got 5 screws over here to remove. That's straightforward enough. You also have to remove the expansion cover just to kind of get it out of the way. You can see with this unit that unfortunately it has had some yellowing, and this is the kind of thing that maybe can be fixed with retrobriting, but when you have a piece that's as rare as this, I don't really feel comfortable with doing that because sometimes retrobriting is inconsistent. It may also make the plastic brittle, and we definitely don't want that. So I don't know. My opinion is to just leave it as it is, but everyone has a different opinion on that. Once you remove those 5 screws, you kind of have to put a little bit of force on the back over here, and then you'll open it up and loosen it. And then I'm not sure if this is going to show up on camera, but there are a couple of flex cables right over here. Oh, let me get that power switch out of the way. I'm also going to get some more plastic out of here just to make my life easier. Okay. Now, there are a few flex cables. This is for the speaker right here. It's pretty firmly attached too. There we go. Okay, so now the speaker is free. And now there's 3 right here, and we're just going to carefully lift up these clips that are holding it in place. Okay, so as you can see, that disassembly part was a little bit tricky. You have to be careful when you're taking apart those 3 flex cables, getting them off of the board. All right, so here we are. This is the PC Engine LT. And as you can see, this thing is completely original. All of the caps have been untouched. And you can see by the design just why these things are so hard to work on. And it's because the capacitors are very tightly packed. There's really no room for your iron to go and do anything. And so as a result, you have to actually remove a bunch of components. You have to remove the hue card slot. You've got to remove this RF shield. There might be other components that I need to desolder as well, and until those things are removed, you really can't even get access to the capacitors. So that's what we're going to do. So first, let me just get these final 4 screws removed, and then we should be able to completely free the motherboard up. One thing that's also worth mentioning is that this console is owned by my friend JJ, who he also has his own YouTube channel, which I'm going to link in the description, and he has very graciously lent this to us for the upcoming Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, which is going to be happening in a few weeks on August 12th to the 14th in Garden City, New York. It's going to be a really fun show. We've got tons of stuff in the marketplace. We have a huge free play and museum section. It's probably double the size of what it used to be in 2019. And then we also have a ton of awesome panelists who are going to be attending as well. So if you're in the area, I really highly recommend that you stop by and check it out. All right. All right, so there we go. So now it is free. So yeah, the next thing I'm going to be doing is just desoldering some components, and then we'll be back and I'll show you what I removed. Okay, so I have finished removing all of the components from the board, and I'll just talk about that for a moment. So first thing is the RF shield, which is very easy to remove. Some people don't put this back. I'm going to afterwards just to keep everything original, but really it's not necessary in truth. That's easier enough to remove. The crystal oscillator, I removed that just because it's hard to work on these caps with it in the way, so I got that out of there. This is the jack for the speakers, which goes right over here. Also pretty easy to pull out. The only thing that's really kind of tough to remove is the hue card slot. And so I use the desoldering gun and some flux to get that out of the way. And then I slowly work it kind of back and forth like this, just to see if there are any pins that are still not moving. So if they're moving, that means that the pin is free. If they're fixed in place, then there's still some solder left. So you just got to add some more flux. Sometimes you have to, reflow it and then use the desoldering gun again to pull it out. But eventually all of those pins will start moving freely, and then at that point you can try to pull it out. And that's what I did, and you can see that all of the vias here are nice and clean, no issues there. So yeah, this thing is in good shape. So now what we're going to do is we're going to remove all the capacitors, and we're also going to clean up some of the electrolyte. So over here you can see this is where the power section of the board is. There's very clearly some electrolyte over here. This is probably what's causing it to not boot, is this section right here. There's also some electrolyte over here as well. So we got to make sure we clean all that up in addition to removing the caps. So I'll clean it up using some isopropyl alcohol and also some white vinegar. First the white vinegar, then the IPA. And once that's all cleaned up, then we're going to go ahead and reinstall all the caps. All right, so let's get started with pulling all these caps. All right, so all of the capacitors were removed safely and everything is looking good. But before I started cleaning, I just wanted to show you, this is the power section. And you can see that every single one of those caps has electrolyte leaking underneath it. It's really gross and disgusting here. So I'm gonna have to very thoroughly neutralize all this stuff and then clean it out. And then I'll show you the flip side. It also looks pretty bad on this side as well. So there's a decent amount of work to be done over here. But thankfully, that's the only section that looks like that. I mean, I'm just showing you the rest of the board, and there's nothing major. There's like a little bit of leakage in other regions, but really it's the power section that was the absolute worst. So yeah, let's go ahead and start cleaning the board. And from here, we'll start replacing all the caps. Okay, so now all of the pads have been cleaned up and you can see that everything looks good as new. The hardest part was, of course, this section right here. So I really spent a lot of time, basically dousing that whole region in the white vinegar and then following up with alcohol. And you can see it made a really big difference. It's a lot cleaner now. If I flip over to the opposite side, you'll see the same result here. Everything looks much better. I spent a lot of time here on this chip because I believe this chip is important for power for the screen. So it's looking good, and all the other little surface mount components are looking good as well. All right, so I think now the final step is going to be just adding all of the capacitors and then soldering back in all of those parts that I removed. So let's get to it and then see what happens. All right, so all of the components have been soldered back on, and so now I'm ready to test. But first I just wanted to show you the final result. It looks brand new. All the caps, I mean, if you didn't know better, you would think those are the originals, but of course these are all brand new and everything's all cleaned up. So let's hope that's it. I mean, it might also have problems with the regulators. So there's one over here, and then there's that one I was talking about earlier on the underside. So if this thing still doesn't power on, that's gonna be my next suspect, is the two regulators. But hopefully not. Let's go ahead and reassemble and see what happens. Okay, so everything is reassembled, and I mean, I decided to just YOLO basically and completely reassemble everything, and I'm hoping for the best here. Now, of course, there could still be a problem. Let's hope not. All right, here we go. Nice. All right, it just booted right up. Hell yeah. Oh my God, these things are hours of work, so I was really hoping that the regulators were going to be fine. And yeah, looks like it was just caps, and it's nice and loud, as you can hear, pretty loud. Here's the brightness and contrast right here. So it's a kind of comparable screen to the one used in the Turbografx, except it's a bit bigger. It still has the same kind of limited viewing angles, and it has dead pixels sometimes. This one doesn't seem to have any, so that's great. But yeah, considering that this was from the late 80s, early 90s, this is pretty remarkable tech. And yeah, it's just an interesting way to play PC Engine games. So yeah, that is it for this week's video. I mean, this is definitely a challenging kind of repair, so I wouldn't recommend this for anybody who's a novice or either intermediate, but hopefully this video helps. All right, so if you guys like this kind of content, then definitely consider subscribing to the channel. I have videos out every week. And then, of course, if you guys have anything that you need repaired or modified, you can always reach me at oneuprestorations.com. Right now, the site is closed because of the upcoming expo, but I will be opening it up pretty soon. All right, thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.